Hey, everybody, and welcome to a conversation with Suraj. How you doing? Did I come close this time, Suraj, with your name?
You are bang on with the pronunciation.
Ah,
Yay.
you were expecting something different, weren't you?
I was, and then I was going to take your case, but now you have denied me that pleasure of taking your case, Bob.
Exactly. See, look, I'm always zigging and zagging, so that way everybody can't catch up to me. I met Suraj on plausible
Now
dot
you got it
com.
wrong.
What did I say?
Suraj. You
Oh,
went from Suraj to
Suraj.
Suraj.
Gosh, I fell right back into it, didn't I?
Oh, that.
Unfortunately, that's my colloquial accent coming through.
No worries, Bob. No worries.
Oh, so you're gonna jump on it every time I say it wrong. Now I'm not even gonna say your name again. So I met him on Plausible, and he was doing comedy, and I've encountered him a few times over there, as well as I think that's probably the only place. Well, you showed up on our show a couple times, and I seen you in other places on there, and I thought, well, what an interesting person to talk to, because how many people are named Suraj, uh, in the world that you get to talk to, and who are also pretty funny about things. So why do you do? Why are you on Plausible? What's your bit there? What's your game?
Yeah, that's a good question, Bob. So I have been doing online comedy for about 4 years now, and a lot of it happened on Zoom, the different virtual mics or
Mm-hmm.
shows. Then by chance, I think in one of the FB groups, I came across Plausible, which is a new platform for comedians
Mm-hmm.
where mics and shows will be hosted there. So I thought, why not just check it out and try? Because I would love to have you know more audiences or meet new people in the form of comedians, just to try out my material and make connections.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got to know about Plausible. Like, I got to know about it the first time was in 2023. Yeah, 2023. uh but I did a few mics, then I went on a long sort of hiatus from comedy, and then from there I just got back on, and I thought, let me try.
So, would you consider yourself a COVID comedian? You said the last 4 years.
Yeah, I sort of started, or I actually really kicked off around then. So yes, I'm a COVID comedian, but don't ask me which variant am I.
There you go. Well, because that's interesting. So, I guess you had these thoughts prior to COVID. I'm assuming all of this isn't a symptom of long term COVID or anything, is it?
No, no, it was before COVID. Uh, like
So,
I,
but you didn't actually act upon it until that time. Is that the idea?
so the thing is, I did act upon it just a few months before, say around November of 2019.
Oh.
I did in-person mics over in Mumbai. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
where I was living at the time, Mumbai, India. So did some mics and tried out things, but I was not getting too much of laughs. It was more like a chuckle or a I was still figuring out how to do jokes and how to write punchlines, especially. That's what I struggled with in my initial days. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had to take a workshop with the established comedian, learned more things, how to refine my material. And I think from there, I started getting better with the writing and with the ideas. But bam, that's when COVID happened and the lockdown took place.
Yeah. So you said in Mumbai. So were you doing this in English, or were you doing this in what? I'm trying to think of the language. What's the language in Mumbai?
Hindi.
Hindi. Okay.
But
I didn't want to say the wrong thing, because I'm thinking Punjabi is a language, right?
that's one of the Indian languages,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
I
not.
didn't know which one, so I didn't want to
No
jump into.
problem. No problem.
So
Hindi it
so
is.
so you did it in India then originally? No,
Oh,
in English?
yeah, in English. I performed
Really?
in English because my Hindi is not that great, honestly speaking, and also I struggle to understand Hindi comedians when they do their sets. Because they get really colloquial and sometimes they use words that I just simply don't comprehend. So while everyone
Oh.
else is laughing, I'm like scratching my head. What the heck is he saying? Or what's so funny?
Not familiar. Yeah. So were you so that raises a quandary in my brain. So you're in Mumbai and you're speaking English.
Yeah.
So are you from Mumbai or are you from someplace else and went to Mumbai?
Ah, you have become Sherlock LeMent now. Actually, you're right. I'm not from Mumbai. I was based over there for my job, but I'm
Uh-huh.
actually from the south of India, from a state called Kerala.
Hmm.
Kerala, yeah. And down in the south, Hindi is not commonly spoken over there. We have our own regional languages as well. Did you know that India has 22 official languages?
Oh, 22? What are you,
Yeah,
Canada? Goodness gracious. That's what Canada's got all these official languages, but I don't think they have 22. That is interesting. Now, if you were to divide up India, right? Because it's a large country, right? So, like the United States, you obviously have the north, you have the south, you have the coastal regions, and so forth. So, do they have that same kind of divide? And then you mentioned the different languages. So, I'm assuming they all come with their own kind of quirks and accents to them as well.
absolutely, Bob. Absolutely. In fact, it's just like even in the US to an extent because I know that we generalize, oh, all Americans are alike, but then you look at a New York American versus an
Mm.
Iowan American. There's a
Mm-mm.
world of difference. So
Yeah.
definitely in India, we do have our regions, our different cultures. Like when you said Punjabi language,
Hmm.
that's from a state called Punjab in the north of India, and it's a close. The language is very similar, or to Hindi, you could say.
Hmm. That's
So
interesting.
yeah,
So like here in the states, right? If we were going to be ornery, right? We kind of affect the southern accent here. And Suraj, you gonna come on down to the barbecue and drink a few beers with us or something? And so then, I mean, that's kind of like if you wanted to do the, you know, what would you call it? In Britain, it would be kind of Cockney. That's the Cockney of America, is the South. In India, does the South get that kind of treatment, or is it something different?
oh, I mean, of course, there's always the north south rivalry that goes on. The north people always assume that South Indians don't know Hindi or can't
Mm-hmm.
understand Hindi, which is not entirely true. But yes, a good portion of the population don't really get Hindi or don't speak it. So, hence the stereotype. And also that the South is richer and
Oh,
most of the people are in IT or engineering jobs. All of that does come into play. So,
so the South is more, what do you want to
vibrant.
say, cosmopolitan than the
Cosmo,
North.
yes,
So it's flipped
cosmopolitan.
then. So we always say the hayseeds live down south, right? So in the United States, so it's flipped.
It is. It is. Actually, it is that way.
So then you're essentially a posh Indian in a way.
Posh Indian. I like that, Bob. I like that.
Or cosmopolitan, how we want to say it. People in New York think that they're elitists a little bit, I suppose, because they live in the city and whatnot. But you know how it goes. Here in the Midwest, we're just very humble people.
Absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
when I moved here, uh, I was greeted by a lot of strangers like, "Hey, how are you?" on the streets, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm not used to that for a long time." Because in Mumbai, you don't do that.
You just ignore everybody, right? You got to get on with your day. You can't
Yeah,
be you can't be saying hi to everybody. So you are in the Midwest. A little birdie told me. Actually, you told me. I think during something in the greater Kansas City area, which is a lot bigger than people think.
Yeah,
When I say it, they're going to think, "Oh, Kansas City, it's like a little tiny." No, it's huge. Kansas
it
City
is.
is massive in scale for its area that it takes up, the greater Kansas City area. So, are you
It's
there
over two
because of the work?
states.
Huh?
It's over two states. So of
Yeah,
course
it's
it's
in
big.
Kansas and Missouri. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you're on the Kansas side, though, so that's why I said you are rich because you're on the Kansas side. He's
Yes,
shaking his head.
I'm rich with tornadoes around me.
Oh yeah, yeah, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
So, are you there because of your? How did you get from Mumbai when COVID hit to Kansas City now?
Yeah, so basically my dad's been living here for the past 8 years. He is
Mm-hmm.
now a retired physician, or that's yeah. And so the thing is, I wanted to move to the US as well because I grew up over in the US. Just to give a heads up, I spent
Oh,
the,
oh, you've
the
been back and forth. Okay, a couple times. All right.
yeah, 12 years in the US, out of which 8 years in Michigan, 4 years in Iowa.
Oh
Then
my lord, all the hot spots.
then I moved back to India. Uh, I was there for the last 17 years, where I did
Mm-hmm.
my higher education, my
How
job.
old are you, Suraj? you, you, if I add that up real quick, you're like 65.
Yeah,
No.
that's definitely Midwestern math concept right there.
Oh my goodness. So you bounced around quite a bit. Was there what's the reasoning behind going back and forth so much? I mean, I guess opportunity? I don't know.
Actually, I moved back to India in the first place so that I could have a chance to live the Indian culture, you could say, because
Mhm.
being in US, most Indian kids when they grow up fully in the US, they lose that touch with India, Indian culture, life, the food. And
Mhm.
then if subsequently the parents want to visit India or even go back, let's say, the
Mhm.
kids won't be open to it. They'll be resistant. They'll say no, and then the parents are stuck in US assuming they want to go back at some point. So my family, my dad made a conscious effort that at the age of 13, let
Mhm.
me go back to India. That would be the ripe age to experience the life, the culture, everything. And I'm glad to say I have gotten the best of both worlds,
Oh,
pretty much.
cool. That's interesting cuz yeah, I do have some being your average Midwesterner don't necessarily come into contact with a lot of different people from around the world, but I do have some experience with folks from India, and they do go back quite often, at least the ones that I'm around, and also talk about whenever they're ready to not work anymore, going back at the end of their lives.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's also interesting that it's the ones that want to go back to India, which makes me think, is Bob Lament the reason they want to go back?
I don't think so. I'm certainly not holding them here for any reason, but I don't think that I'm pushing them away necessarily. But no, I think that that's interesting because having, I mean, seriously, let me think here. I probably don't even live 200 miles from where I was born.
Ah,
And all my life has been within that radius. And so, I mean, it's so claustrophobic if you think about it in terms of other like yourself being so worldly. So
yeah.
would you say you obviously enjoyed the experience, but out of all that, what would you say? Like, if you had to take a lesson from all that, what would it be that you would say, "Oh, this is the best thing that happened."
This is the best thing that happened.
I'm putting you on
Yeah.
the spot a little bit.
I mean, just being known as an Indian American is probably no greater feeling than that. I mean, but of course, two key takeaways for me are now I have an accent that nobody recognizes really. Indians are like, what accent is that? And Americans are also now like, what accent is that? That's what comes with living in two different worlds for so many years. And
Mm.
now the worst part is when I actually speak in an American accent, like after
Mhm.
I've come back here, my original US accent that I had as a kid starts coming back. The
Mhm.
folks in India are who don't know that I grew up in the US are like, "Oh, you're such a wannabe. You're so fake now. What is this?" And I'm like, "No, I grew up here." They're like, "Yeah, right. You're making excuses now." And I'm like, "Ugh, what to
That's
do?"
funny. Yeah, because I would think because you said you were there for your younger life, right?
Yeah.
So until like I guess from when you were born until you were 13.
Yeah. No,
And
no, no.
so
I was
no,
born
you
in
were,
India.
oh, okay.
Born in India, I came here at the age of 1.5 or
Oh,
just under
okay.
two
Very
years. Yeah,
young though.
exactly.
So all your developmental milestones and everything happened in the US. So you were exposed to, you know, even though at your house with your parents, you certainly were exposed to more Indian things, but as far as culture goes, you were exposed to very American things.
Yes.
So do you have a favorite pop culture touchstone from your childhood that you take with you when you go back and forth?
Pop culture touchstone
You know,
from
like
from
some
the
kids are
US.
like, yeah, from your childhood. So in the
Yeah,
U.S.
yeah, of course. Like all the superhero DC Marvel stuff. That's like my favorite stuff that I had exposure to as a kid and still maintain that interest even after going back to India as well. So,
So you said DC first, so I'm assuming your favorite superhero is a DC superhero.
want to take a guess at which one?
Green Lantern, because you're wearing a green shirt.
Oh, Bob. I was gonna
Spider Man.
from Marvel,
That's
yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah, from Marvel,
Um,
yeah. I mean, if you had gotten it right the first time, I would have called you Nostradamus LeMent,
there you go.
but now you're just Bob
Now
Lament.
I'm a hack.
So my
So was
first
it Spider Man? No, because that's not DC.
from DC, it was Batman.
Ah, Batman.
I still
Of
remember
course.
the Kellogg's cornflakes boxes that had Batman, the Michael Keaton one.
I was gonna say it was a Michael Keaton Batman, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
on the box, and I was like,
Hmm.
wow, that's Batman. Then I saw Batman the animated series, and I
Even
asked my
better.
I asked my dad, why doesn't Batman have eyes? Why is his eyes fully white?
Mm.
Is he rolling them up like this?
Yeah, he's just
Like
rolling his head up,
like
his eyes up in his
I'm
head.
Batman, but I can't see.
You're right. He always got sonar, right? His bat
Yeah,
in his cowl. No, that's so Batman was the big impact then. Okay, interesting. So
yeah.
then when you went back over to Mumbai, I'm assuming that is kind of a world kind of thing, right? Batman's over there, right? So you weren't missing it extremely, were you?
No, I wasn't because Batman was there through
He's
movies
universal
and vid.
in a way.
Yeah, in fact, when I went to India for one of the summer visits, we had these arcade video games, like 100 games in one consoles,
Hmm.
and one of those games was Batman and Flash. Yeah, I mean,
Really?
but the interesting thing is, it was not the original game. The original game was, I think, Pockets in My Monster or Monster Pockets or something like that.
Oh,
But
Pocket Monster. I think that's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but apparently they did some game cheat or
Oh, they switched
reprogramming.
out the characters.
Yeah, and they made it Batman and Flash instead of
Batman.
the
Oh,
original.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's pretty weird.
I remember playing that game and I was like, why is Flash running at the same pace as Batman?
That's right. He should be like moving in slow motion compared to the Flash.
Yeah.
Well, because they basically just they subbed him in. They subbed him in for other characters, I guess. You think Flash should be moving like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, you'd be expecting that, but he's just
Yeah.
like
Hey,
jogging on a
taking a stroll.
treadmill.
Yeah. He's like the you ever see those people that do speed walking, where they kind of walk kind of funny. Um, so since you kind of experienced this for the pop culture aspect of things at such a young age, why do you think that the U.S. has well, actually, let me ask you this: do you think the U.S. has a stranglehold on popular culture for the world at this point?
Absolutely. I seriously think so
Really?
because yeah,
There's nothing comparable in India that is as popular as like Batman. To when
so
you got there, there wasn't like, oh, here's something that's just as cool as Batman, and it's only here.
in India we do have our own pop culture in the form of Bollywood,
Mm-hmm.
Hindi movies or even the regional cinema as well, which are still very popular. And uh, a lot of those movies even now may do much better in the Indian box office than the actual American movies that come there. And in some cases the American movies do better if they're like a large scale movie, say like an MCU movie or a
Mm-hmm.
James Cameron movie, Avatar. Those kind of movies definitely are a huge hit with Indians back home. uh, but yeah, we do have our own pop culture and our own music and songs. Like if you ask me, like though I love a lot of things about American pop culture, like superheroes and TV shows and whatnot, Disney and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but I still like Bollywood songs and regional songs. Like I'm not so much into the English or American music that much. Even
Mm-hmm.
now, I still prefer the Hindi stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah, 'cause, I guess if we were to think about if Hollywood has a competition, Bollywood would be right up there as far as the one of the big competitors. That and obviously like French and UK media that gets published is pretty popular as well in the world. That's interesting. So, but I know that they're doing. Do they still call them Bollywood if they don't have music involved in them? I mean, most of the Bollywood stuff I've ever seen, there's music, but they also do. I watched. I can't. Actually, that was probably Spanish, but the it was like a superhero movie that was totally in a different language and everything. I think it might have been Spanish though, but they have superheroes over in India that are just in Bollywood. But do they have songs in those as well?
Yeah, they do. Like there's a movie called Krish, Krissh. That's a superhero movie. I think you should definitely check it out, Bob.
I will.
They do have songs and dance sequence as well in those movies.
So do you think has that always been though? I mean, or is that this influenced by the musicals from MGM and Warner Brothers whenever they were in the 30s and 40s? I think was the big time for musical.
I think
You know,
so.
really, you think so? Those came over basically and had a huge impact, and then they faded, and they're like, no, we don't want them to fade. We want to keep doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, it became sort of a cultural thing within India, and that lasted for like decades and decades and decades. But
Mm.
now the good thing is a lot of the Bollywood movies or Indian movies, the song or the music that comes in them are now a little more integrated with the storyline
Mm-hmm.
that is there. Instead of like, say, if you take a movie where, say, a character's mother or relative has just died and they're all crying, and then a few minutes later the hero is dancing with the heroine in such an energetic manner, and you're like, what's the connection? How is this?
I thought that was sad.
Yeah, but now it's like they don't do those random separate song dance tracks. It's more like the music is much more integrated. Like if it's a sad scene, maybe the music and the singing will also reflect that. And that way it's much better now. And that's why people perhaps like Indian movies much better today than what they did back in the
Because they were
90s or
kind of
before the 90s.
disjointed, and now it's more. It flows better. I will say, from what I've watched, the quality is incredible on the movies. I mean, it's
Which movie have you watched, if you
the
remember
problem
a
is I don't
title?
remember any name. I was watching the other day. I didn't watch all of it yet, and I can't remember the name of the movie, unfortunately. But it was like a war movie where
Or
this guy was on a motorcycle. It's fairly new. It was on Netflix, and it was an Indian. It didn't have. I didn't get any dance sequences or anything, but it was an action movie, and this guy was just blowing everything up.
does
I
he have
don't
a
know.
turban on?
No,
Okay,
he
no,
had a
then it's
helmet
not.
on for a while, and then he was like, and I typically watch. When I'm watching by myself, I always watch it in whatever the native language is with subtitles.
That's the
Um,
best. That's the best
that
way to watch
yeah,
it.
that's my. Now when I like my wife or somebody else is with me and they want to watch, they like to watch it dubbed, and I don't. I mean, I will. I don't, but I don't like it.
Same. I mean, Jackie Chan movies before the 90s,
Hmm.
those were in Chinese, but then they got dubbed in English. And when I watched it, I was like, that's not Jackie's voice.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, you hear him going like, "I want to go to America, and I want to fight bad guys." And then
Mm.
in the earlier '80s, where he's like, "I want to go to America, and I want to fight bad guys." I'm like, nah,
Yeah,
no.
I love all those old Jackie Chan movies. I actually watched Armor of the Gods 2 not too long ago,
Oh, how was
which
it?
that was good. It was good, really good. I mean, any Jackie Chan movie is typically, a good
Always
movie.
fun.
Yeah, I've watched all the American movies, and I'm on to other cultures and things to because now right now we're in. I would say people will say it's the television's renaissance or something like that. The
Yeah.
problem was what comes along with that is then it tows a lot of garbage. And so for every one good show, you have 10 that are just horrible and unwatchable. And so then I'm looking for other avenues. I'm looking for that one good show in the other culture to watch as opposed to all the dreck that we have at our disposal currently. Sorry, that was my little soapbox thing there. So let's
No.
get back to comedy. So uh, you've got this multicultural aspect to yourself. When was the spark for comedy? Was it when you were younger, or is it since you've been older? Or
Bob, I think I lost you for a few seconds when you
oh
started asking the question. So
oh
sorry to make
sure.
you repeat.
I said when was your um, for comedy? When was the spark that made you want to do comedy? Was it when you were younger or older or what?
Oh, I love this question because I would say my first exposure to stand-up comedy was back in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
where I watched a famous Indian comedian called Saurabh Pant. That's his
Mm-hmm.
name, Saurabh Pant. He did a show at a college auditorium, and I just watched him perform, doing all sorts of act outs, talking about Indian stereotypes, regional stereotypes. And I was like, man, this guy is killer. And the audience was, in a jam packed auditorium. They were all clapping, laughing, hooting. And I was like, amazing how he does that. And then the second time I saw stand up performances 2 years later with another comedian named Azim Banatwala.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a lot of political commentary and also personal anecdotes and stuff. And again, the same response, same reactions. Like, damn, I wish I could be like this guy because I could do public speaking, I could address audiences, but I wanted to entertain and be funny as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that I was always amazed by these guys. And I did contemplate doing comedy, like trying it out in 2017 or so, but I was like hesitant and not sure, and I didn't have any solid material in mind. So I was like, nah. But then the real kicker came when I started doing poetry open mics in poetry and storytelling open mics over in Mumbai.
Hmm.
And I did poetry, I did recite some poems, but one open mic, I did storytelling where I talked about some embarrassing incidents that I had as a child over in the US, like the language barriers and misunderstandings and stuff like that. And some of the audience members, they laughed or they enjoyed certain points of it. And after my performance, two of the audience members came to me saying, Suraj, uh, maybe you should consider doing stand up comedy. Have you considered it? I was like, wow, this is
Now I have.
validation. Yeah, this is validation. And I was like, okay, that gave me the much needed motivation to just give it a try. I knew that I didn't have like proper jokes per se, but still the anecdotes were funny, and that's where I could at least start. So,
That's
yeah,
interesting. So, but prior to that, there was not like, you weren't the class clown or you weren't involved in anything where you, per se, that would be more comedic in your endeavors, I guess.
class clown. Yeah, I was a class clown in
Oh,
certain
well,
ways,
see.
all because of my US accent, which I had while I was in India. People were like if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, somebody else would be like, I'm going to do the same in Suraj's style. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'd be like, come on, man. It was mainly because of my accent that I was kind of the class clown,
Oh my
either in school
gosh.
or in college as well.
So you were basically taking, were they being mean to you or were they playing along? I guess that's where's that line at?
At least the ones who became my friends, I knew they were playing along.
Oh,
The
okay.
ones, the ones who didn't, I knew they were just having their own fun at my expense.
Well, because that, I mean, that's a lot of times that's where these kind of beginnings happen is you get put in situations that are uncomfortable, right? So maybe
Yeah,
somebody's making fun of you or wants to try to make fun of you, and then you turn the tables and make fun of them, or you, play along with it so that that way it takes the edge off. You know what I mean? So there's nothing worse than trying to make fun of somebody and it not working because then your whole accomplishment is ruined, right?
goes
You
down the
wanted the
drain.
laugh and then they got the laugh. So yeah. Uh. But you said you did public speaking before, right?
Yeah.
So are we talking what kind of public speaking? Like business stuff or what?
Yeah, so I used to do these in college extempore competitions that we had. So you get a topic on the spot, either in the
Mm-hmm.
form of a piece of paper or a chit that you draw, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have hardly a minute or so just to gather your thoughts, and then you go on stage and talk about it for 1 or 2 minutes. So
Really? And
I
that's
used to,
like some kind of competitive thing?
yeah, they used to have that in like at collegiate level, like, cultural festivals. You have these debate competitions or theater competitions, then various other events. So extempore or impromptu speeches were one of them.
That's interesting because I don't, I mean, I can't recall ever seeing that
There I
here for
had,
me.
there I, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So there I had a chance to be very spontaneous and funny as well, because sometimes I would just be uninhibited while speaking over there, because like I remember once a topic that I got was college romance or something like that, and I just I just took a story that another classmate told me of witnessing college mates making out outside the gate or something, and
Hmm.
I just repeated that sort of, and but I didn't act out as well, like a proper act out of that making out, and the audience was like laughing, and some were like, but hey, it got me second prize. So
What was first prize? Who got first prize? What was their story?
first prize was a law student. Lawyers always they
Oh
will
gosh.
excel. They will always excel in these extempore or debate events. You just can't beat them. And I'm a art student,
Oh,
pursuing economics.
sorry. That's tough. That's tough. But that's
Yeah.
interesting because I don't think that we do that. Like I took speech class or whatever, which was stupid in school here, and it didn't really give you the the full experience was getting up and doing a speech. That was the experience, right? So you had to write a speech and get up and give it, right? And that was it. That was pretty much. I mean, you talked about how to do things and what have you, and what was proper and what was not proper and so forth. But really, what they should have done is flip that and had you do more talking and less on the theory, at least until later. Because what happens is then everybody can't speak. They freeze up or don't want to do it or avoid it or what have you. So I think it's a very good skill for people to have, because at some point in time you're going to have to do it
No doubt.
eventually. I mean, whether you like it or not.
And I have two people to credit for my public speaking skills. One is my father. Though I told you he's a retired physician,
Mm-hmm.
he has been doing for many years a lot of trainings and workshops on soft
Mm-hmm.
skills and communication skills. And during my younger years as a kid, I used to have
Mm-hmm.
severe stage fright, no confidence, thinking what will others think, all that kind of stuff. And he would encourage me, saying, no, no, you have to overcome this and get that confidence. And he would bring me along with him for his talks or workshops, and he would give me 1 to 3 minutes of stage time just to say something. Like, he would have something in mind that what I could say, and then just say, now just talk about that this way. And
Mm-hmm.
over time, that got me more and more confident. Like, I still used to be very anxious for many years, but over time I eased up and realized that, hey, I could be a little more conversational and or even spontaneous and not necessarily rehearsed or very rigid. But got to give credit to him for helping me overcome that. And number two, my librarian back in Kerala,
Mm-hmm.
because in our school she not only did the library work, but she was also having a public speaking club as well. And she encouraged me to join it, participate, be it debates or just giving speeches. And that is something that also gave me even more confidence. And she used to let me participate in inter school competitions as well, whether I won it or not. That didn't matter. I did win, I think, one or two of them, but
Mm-hmm.
the point is getting that exposure and opportunity to speak and even MC for our school's annual function, thanks to her as well. So,
Oh, you were the MC.
yeah, and it was a great opportunity, great experience. But in hindsight, when I watched my performance, Bob, I was like, nah, I was a bit hard on myself because the thing is, one of my juniors, after I did the emceeing and the school function was over, he came to me and said, Suraj, you sucked. Because of you, this event was a bummer. And I was like, how could he say that? I
Mm-hmm.
was so hurt because, you know, most people, when they MC or do this, they need a piece of paper to just read the script or
Mm-hmm.
remember things. But I went the extra mile to retain it up here and
Mm-hmm.
try to, just deliver it without a paper, which no doubt that is something commendable if you can do it. But when
Yeah.
I watched, when I watched my recording subsequently that I got on the CD, I was like, yeah, I did not use paper, but I sounded very rehearsed or forced. Like, I was like, next up, we have this teacher for this speech. Now, Thomas M. John is going to do that solo dance for all of you. And I realized that it seemed a little bit forced or overly dramatic. And I was like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, but
I see what.
you're a young guy. You're not
I was just in eighth grade.
yeah, you're not experienced or anything. That you're emulating, right? So you're doing something you thought other people did, and it just wasn't quite natural for you because you have an interesting cadence to your speech. I
Abs-
don't think it's accent. I think it's actually I won't say it's deliberate, but you certainly have a delivery that is not average.
That is not average.
That is not average. Yes.
Thank
So
you.
if you, because see, it sounds like you've gone through this with your dad and so forth. You'll notice that everybody, as they speak, have a certain cadence, a certain pattern, a certain rhythm to the way that they talk, and if you're not as adept, then it comes across because it doesn't have a rhythm, it doesn't have a cadence, And so, yeah, as and when I noticed this, when I first saw you, I think because you have such an interesting delivery of the way you talk, it's a part of a persona, perhaps, but I'm not sure. Still haven't figured it out yet.
Charisma?
Well, you could say charisma if you want to. I was kind of going for more along the line of it's somewhat deliberate the way you're doing it, but not overly deliberate. It's not so deliberate that it's obvious. It's only somewhat deliberate, possibly. If you became more comfortable, I'm guessing it would slip away a little bit. But whenever you're kind of in the mode, as it were, then you hit this. I'm trying to think. I don't know how I can explain it because it's not. There's not a stutter to it, but it's almost a stutter.
That's probably.
I don't mean that in any kind of bad way. I'm not saying stutter in a bad way. Don't take it that way.
No.
You have a very deliberate pausing of the way you speak. Now I'm making you more, all self-conscious.
That's probably why some people ask me, Suraj, are you dumb or do you act dumb?
I don't think you're dumb at all.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
I think you're very sharp, but it's interesting the way that your delivery is. Do you practice that a little bit? I mean, is this something? Am I hit upon anything, or is this just accidental that I'm noticing this?
So the thing is, in my younger years, I used to rehearse, practice, and do that a lot. But nowadays, I don't really rehearse or practice as much, especially considering the material, at least in the comedy side, the material that I have, I've been doing it for over and over at different mics. So it's like I'm pretty comfortable speaking on it with or without some reference or note on my side. But apart from that, I think what has really helped me is I do a lot of improv nowadays as well. I participate in improv jams or any improv workshops that allows me to be more spontaneous in delivery, speaking, adaptable, as you'd call it.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helps me to be really comfortable. And even if I'm not entirely prepared, I can always have that confidence to just speak in whatever way I can, like thanks to improv and taking some of the training on that in the last few weeks.
Well, that's interesting. So, do you do live improv then in Kansas City?
Not yet, Bob, because I'm still sort of looking out for work opportunities first and settling down. So mostly all my comedy and improv is still online, either on
Virtual.
Plausible or on Zoom.
Oh, okay. So, so you talk about the Zoom ones and so forth. Is there other groups and so forth that you're involved with, or I mean, tell me how'd you find these things?
Oh yeah, so there are groups like U-Cubed Improv, which is based in Dubai, and they have their jams every Sunday at 8 a.m. our time. Yes.
Oh,
I know, right? You'd expect that, hey, sleeping on a Sunday, but you're getting up to do improv.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
Yeah, that is commitment.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So U-Cubed, and then there are American ones as well, which just through a Google search or through a Facebook search, you find some online improvs as well, like WGIS, Weegis, then a couple of others which
that
names
stand for something. WGIS.
World's greatest improv school.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, let's not hold back at all. Let's,
Yeah.
let's just put it right out there. Okay.
Yeah. So, and
World's
then
greatest improv school.
community improv. So like that, I've done the American ones too. But the thing with the American ones is most of them focus on long form freestyle improv, which is like you just come in, you do the edits, the cuts, and sometimes it tends to be a little chaotic in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, I end up getting sidelined uh, because
What do you mean sideline? What do you?
like somehow it's the other people, they want to sort of dominate the scene or dominate the
Ah,
role. Yeah, that's the problem with long form freestyle. Whereas short form and with rules and mechanics in place,
mm-hmm.
like we do at ucubed, that allows for us to have ample opportunity to perform, to learn, to experiment, and they give really good feedback also after the games, because when
Oh,
you
okay.
think you're
So it's all a teaching, or at least a learning type of thing, not necessarily a teaching thing, but
yeah, so I
rather
may
than
think that I've
a
done
ego
well.
thing.
I may think that I've done well, but then I get told that, hey, this is actually a best practice of how to do it, or you could have done it this way. And then I realize that, yeah, I could have done it this way, or I'm like, I
Yeah,
messed up this
they keep
game.
saying, Suraj, don't use the F word so much.
I never do.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking. so so where's this all taking you? So you've been doing this now for 5 years. I
Yeah,
mean,
4 to 5.
more seriously, not necessarily. I mean, that's when you really kind of started stepping out and doing these things. What is your what's the end goal, or what's your 5 year plan? What's the next 5 years?
Oh my God, you have turned this into a job interview, Bob. What
Well, I'm
is
trying to
this?
help you. You said you were looking for employment.
Yeah, my 5 year plan is just, as far as comedy goes, just keep performing, keep learning, keep writing, rewriting. And ultimately, once I do have an actual, what do you say, job or employment in place, then I can do the live mics as well,
Hmm.
meet people, and hopefully they would consider me for their shows or their, showcases.
Hmm.
And then we'll see how it goes from here, because I've been told a lot of times that the material that I have and the way I perform, it would suit the English speaking audiences more than the Indian audiences or the native Indian audiences who prefer Hindi, local languages, or more of the desi kind of stuff, which
Hmm.
I have, but in limited amounts. So let's see. I mean, because I have had some opportunities to be on some shows and stuff virtually on the American side rather than on the Indian side. So
Hmm.
there seems to be some promise or scope in this geography, at least, or with this audience.
So would you call this your is it your goal or your hobby or your hobby goal? I mean, what would you call it if you had to put a name on it?
Hobby slash goal. That's how it identifies itself.
You just repeated
But
what I said.
yeah, but
The
no, honestly, but right now it's mainly a hobby. Just have fun with it, no pressure, no, and just see where it takes me. Because if I do get the opportunities, why not? I won't say no. I'll take them up. But if
Yeah,
I focus it purely as like a career or something, then it's tricky because it's very competitive. And
yeah,
especially if you go to New York and California or Texas or Chicago, uh, there are people who actually try to do this full time, but then they struggle financially and
right.
socially and all those things. Why get into that? Just,
Why beat yourself up, right?
yeah. I
You can
mean,
still be funny and not beat yourself up, can't you?
the perfect example, if you think about it, not in the comedy side, but in, the sport of cricket.
I know what cricket is, but I am not familiar with it too much.
Yeah, but don't worry, I'm
What's a
not going to
sticky
go
wicket?
into. Good. So you are among the 1% who knows what sticky wicket is among Americans. Good job. But seriously, there's a USA cricket team. Yes, they're
Hmm.
playing in the World Cup now, which is happening in US and in the West Indies. And
Hmm.
the USA team has like 6 or 7 Indian American players in that team. Yes, and in fact, the joke goes that they should be called the Indian H1B team, not the USA team.
Right.
But the point is, these cricketers are not full time cricketers or purely professional. They have like IT jobs or day jobs,
Oh,
and on the side they play cricket as a hobby. But because they're so good or really good at what they do and passionate about it, they're able to represent USA at the national international level. And recently the USA team beat Pakistan in the World Cup, and Pakistan is full of pro cricketers, like
right.
serious years of experience, years of training. So you never know.
Yeah. I wonder why cricket never caught on here. I mean, it you hit things, you run around, you throw things. It seems very American.
fun
Don't you
fact
think?
is fun fact is cricket was one of the popular sports in the US until 1800s or 1860s. That's when like
Ah,
baseball caught on and stuff, and then cricket
that's when the
slowly died
performance
out.
enhancing drugs came into play. There's
Whatever you say,
you
Bob.
never
Whatever
you
you
never
say.
get any cricketers who are on steroids. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I don't think so. I haven't seen any.
no, actually, there have been
Oh, really?
long time, not recently, but in the 2000s, there were like a couple of Pakistani cricketers who were
They were
accused of,
juicing. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
and anti-doping, failing the anti-dope tests and stuff.
Uh
And
huh. Oh,
yeah,
that's
so
interesting.
it does happen. But the good
So,
news is now there's an MLC, Major League Cricket,
uh-huh.
and that
In the
started last year.
states. Oh, okay.
Yes, they started last year, and now the second edition is going to be happening in July.
Oh,
And they have
interesting.
teams from Texas, New York, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Florida.
All the big cities.
Yeah, and because right now it's just picking up, so and I think
Yeah.
mostly the South Asian or the Caribbean crowd would be following cricket more than the local American crowds. But the idea is to grow the sport and make it popular again as the years goes by. And
Yeah.
but the good news is cricket is there for 2028 Los Angeles Olympics.
Oh, okay.
So
Really?
yes,
Has it not been involved before? I don't
the
even.
last time cricket was in the Olympics was I think in 1900 or 1905, like
Huh.
more than 100 years ago. The last time cricket was in the
Cricket, it's
Olympics.
making a comeback. Although I think
Exactly.
it's very popular overseas. I mean, in general, it's probably more popular than baseball.
It is.
Yeah. I
Baseball
mean,
is American,
yeah.
pretty much.
Uh, Japanese and Americans like baseball. That's about it.
Koreans also.
Oh, the Koreans. Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that.
I think
Well,
so. I
you
may be
think so?
wrong.
Oh, okay.
I may be
Not
wrong,
the
but
North
yeah.
Koreans? Anyway. I didn't think they were allowed to like anything. There's probably some kind of weird sport up there that only they play.
They actually like basketball.
Oh, well, that was because Dennis Rodman went to North Korea. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, when you get a Bulls player to show up, it spurs on the movement. Well, Suraj, I want to thank you for talking to me. Do you want to plug anything else or talk about anything else? I got your Instagram here, which you told me how to say it, and I'm going to say it wrong, but Ayapun. Aya dot
No,
pun.
perfect actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah. Now say my first name again.
Suraj?
Close.
Well, I
Close.
said it perfect the first time. You know, I actually practiced a little bit before I got on because you've corrected me a few times, but I just dropped back down into that kind of, you know, flat A. Instead of having a long A, I have a flat A. Suraj.
Yes. Suraj.
Suraj. Suraj.
Suraj.
Suraj. Gosh, it's like
Yes.
edge. Hey, that's it. Suraj has the edge.
Yeah.
Now I'll remember it from now on.
Suraj has the
Edgy
edge.
Suraj.
Edgy Suraj.
You can see. Can they see you perform on Aya.pun? Have you got performances on here?
Yeah, so on aya.pun I have my some of my comedy reels, snippets, sketches as well that I've done, especially on Batman with one of my friends back in. Now he's in the UK, but he was my junior back in school.
Mm-hmm.
So we have done some collab
The
reels.
blind Batman, the animated Batman.
More like the Hindu Batman.
Well, that's fun. Well, everybody should check it out, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you. And you can find him on Plausible every once in a while. Obviously, you can find him here at aya.pun on Instagram, and follow Suraj because he's got the edge.
Thank you, Bob LeMent, and hopefully he doesn't lament having me here.
You never know. Hold on just a sec.